The Nations Championship Round 2 is here, and it's time for my preview and predictions, where in this video I'll be giving a little bit of a slight preview for the games, but also giving my predictions, putting my predictions out there. Of course, they can come back to bite me, but I'll take it on the chin if that does happen. But I am confident in my predictions, but there's one game. Actually, you know what? There's two games I'm extremely unsure of by looking at these games. But before we do get into it, if you do enjoy the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe to help the channel grow. I really do appreciate all the support, and soon the whole setup here will be looking different. We are actually moving our setup to a different place, so it should be looking a lot more aesthetic, a lot better to see in the background as well, because I've seen some of the comments about the background. We've been doing it a bit on a budget right now, but it will be changing soon. So some really exciting things happening with the channel. Of course, we're trying to also get out to an Ireland game this year. I think we're trying to aim for the Ireland vs South Africa game in November. Then also we want to watch a Scotland game pretty soon as well in Scotland. So we're going to try and make all these things happen. But before we do get into it, thank you so much for all the support, and hit the subscribe button if you want to stick around. So alright, let's get right into it. Starting off with going over all the games. We're starting off with New Zealand versus Italy, then Australia versus France, Japan versus Ireland, Fiji versus England, home game for Fiji, South Africa versus Scotland, and Argentina versus Wales. So of course all the Southern Hemisphere teams are at home, of course, except for Fiji. They're playing in England. Some really fun games this weekend. There's a lot of games where I can kind of see that a lot of teams might be able to experiment with some of their players, some of their lineups, but there's other games where I know it's got to be full strength, or these games are going to be extremely close. But we'll start off with New Zealand versus Italy. A very good win against France for New Zealand. I saw one of these comments as well, and I really do agree with it. You can already start to see under Dave Rennie, the All Blacks starting to play some really good running rugby, scoring some great tries, playing to their strengths, playing to their natural ability. And that's all we want to see from the All Blacks, because they're number 2 in the world, but they're having their worst period of rugby ever. I mean, come on, that just shows how good the All Blacks really are. The most successful team in rugby history, if you're talking about how many wins they have. One of the legendary teams in rugby, and I think one of those teams that you just want them to be at their best at all times, because when they do play at their best, it's absolutely awesome to see. Of course, the greatest rivalry series this year is going to be epic. New Zealand versus South Africa. It's going to be almost like a British and Irish Lions tour, which I think is what rugby needs right now. It needs something like this, and I think it's going to make that rivalry even better. But that being said, I do expect New Zealand for the All Blacks to experiment with their lineup this week. I will be doing a video of that predicted lineup coming out probably today as well, but I do expect them to experiment, but I also expect them to not experiment to the extent of playing completely different players for this All Blacks team for this game, because Italy still is a threat, and when things do click for Italy, they've beaten some big teams before. But for this All Blacks team, I do expect the 23 to be rotated around, so I expect the 23 to remain quite similar. Of course, there might be injuries as well, but I expect the 23 that played last week to remain a little bit similar. Maybe one or two players coming in, but just some guys within that 23 chopped and changed a bit, just to kind of try guys out, try combinations out, and see how they do as well. Maybe some guys that were on the bench, give them a starting kind of role as well for this game. That's just what I'm thinking might happen. And of course, for Italy, they have to bounce back. A very, very disappointing performance against Japan, and that's not taking anything away from Japan. I thought Japan took the game away from Italy. Italy didn't seem up for the conditions. They didn't seem physically fit for the game. They were hands on their knees early on in the game as well. So it was just uncharacteristic stuff from Italy that I think they will be able to fix, and I think they really will be up for this game against New Zealand. It's a bit of a weird thing with Italy. When they play a bit of a weaker kind of opposition, they always bring their game not down to their level, but they always don't play at their best. But once they play teams like New Zealand now, like South Africa, like the teams in the Six Nations, they always take it to another level as well. So I do expect this to be a much better game for Italy, but I have to go with New Zealand winning this one by a healthy margin, in my opinion. If New Zealand can score some tries like they did against France and play the way they did for patches during that game, but for 80 minutes, I think New Zealand can honestly win this game with a healthy score margin, and I think they will. So I'm going with New Zealand to win by a healthy score margin, but hopefully Italy can kind of pick up their act and play some good rugby again. Moving on to the second game, and this is where it gets really difficult for me. Australia versus France. I see a lot of rumours, maybe Intermac and Jalibert will both be in the starting lineup somehow this week, maybe 10-12 or 10-15. Just some rumours I'm seeing. That would be absolutely awesome to see. That would be really fun. But I think this Australia team looked really good against Ireland, and I think Ireland actually had an extremely good second half and showed the character and the development of their team to actually scrape out a win against a very solid Australia team. This is definitely a win Australia wants. They don't want to win. They don't want to lose 2 in a row at home. I'm going with Australia to win this one. I don't know what it is. I feel like Australia can beat France this week. That being said, we know how good France are. They're getting their strong players back. This one could come back to bite me because France has the potential to beat Australia by a healthy score margin, by 2 or 3 tries. But then Australia at home is such a weird team to play against. There's always a calm before the storm, and then Australia comes flying out the gates, and that's where they can be dangerous. If France doesn't prepare well for that, which I think they will be prepared for that, but if they aren't prepared for the full onslaught from Australia, trying to get a kind of revenge win for last week's loss, it could be a long day for France. But that being said, France is one of the best teams in the world. It is a bit of a weird one for me actually going for Australia to win this one, because realistically France should be winning this game with the squad they have, the players they have, kind of their reputation recently, where they are in the rankings as well, the history of playing against each other as well. France should be winning this game, but I just have a feeling that Australia might just win this one. So for that game, I'm going Australia to win by a very close score margin, but it should be a very fun game as well. Of course, no Carter Gordon, but I think Ben Donaldson will be the flyer for that game. But there's just some really good players in that Australian team, and they all have such a high work rate. So I think this game should be a very interesting one. Probably the game of the weekend right now, looking at it from this perspective. But then obviously looking at the next game, Japan versus Ireland, I definitely do expect Ireland to experiment with their 23. I expect them to bring some other guys in to get some opportunities, to get some experience, like a Tom Stewart, a Nathan Doak, a Cormac Azuchukwu, maybe the Ward brothers as well. I fully expect those guys to get some opportunities, but I don't expect most of the main guys to be out. Of course, I expect some guys that have maybe had a lot of rugby under their belt, like some of the main Leinster players, to get a bit of a rest, just because that next game against the All Blacks is going to be an absolute thriller the week after. And I think for these guys, kind of managing the players you've brought on tour to give every player that's come with them some game time will be a very, very valuable thing for Ireland for this tour. So if Ireland can get out of this tour, giving every single player some game time, then in my opinion, that's a successful tour as well. But I do expect Ireland to win this game, but I don't expect it to be easy. Japan is a very difficult team to play in Japan. Japan's already beaten Ireland in Japan as well. Sorry, Irish fans, I do remember the 2019 World Cup where Japan just played some incredible rugby. I mean, some of the best rugby I've ever seen played. I really do remember that game, and what a game it was. But Japan is a good team. They are a solid team. They play a game in their very own kind of style, in a very unique way. But that being said, I do expect Ireland to win this game probably by a healthy score margin. But if there are a lot of changes for Ireland, that could catch them out early, where things aren't where they need to be at the start. Not that much cohesion yet. Players still learning how to play together. Players still kind of coming into the game, not expecting what the pace is going to be like. So maybe if Japan does start quick, it will be a close game. But I think with the quality that Ireland has in their squads, no matter who they pick, I think they will win this game by a healthy margin. By a healthy margin, I mean by at least 2 tries, because international rugby is close, and a healthy margin is at least by more than 10 points, in my opinion. Then in the next game, Fiji versus England. This game should be very interesting. I mean, Fiji wants to get revenge for last week. They lost to Wales, but I thought they played a pretty solid game. Some very good individual performances as well. I mean, Juita Wankolo beat 17 defenders by himself. 17 defenders. So if every single player can play like that for Fiji, of course they can pull off an upset. They've done it before against England. They've beaten them before. I think they beat them before. They kept it really close. But that being said, I do expect England to bounce back from a very disappointing performance in South Africa. I do expect England to maybe make a few changes. I'm kind of in two minds about it, because on the one side, I think England maybe should keep almost the exact same lineup, maybe move the centres and the wings, maybe put Freeman on the wing, bring in some actual proper specialist centres into the back line. But on the other side, I'm thinking maybe they give some guys some game time that were on the bench, that aren't usual guys that play there, against a solid Fiji team, but also having the backup and reinforcements of the start, some of those key guys that are starters on the bench. So I'm not too sure about that one. I think Steve Borthwick could go anyway, but for this game, I have to go with England to win. That might be a bit of a boring result, but I have to go with England to win. I think they really will bounce back, but I do think Fiji will put up a really good fight at home against England in England. I can't believe they're calling it a home game in England. They might as well just call it an away game, because imagine how good it would be if we saw Wales and England playing in Fiji against Fiji. Imagine the Fijian crowd. Imagine playing in those conditions. It would be so awesome, in my opinion. But I'll talk about that another time. You can see how I feel about that. Moving on to the second to last game here, the Springboks versus Scotland. And the Springboks have already released their lineup. Definitely not their strongest lineup. It has to be said, it's not their strongest lineup, but it still is a very strong lineup. And I think the one thing with the Springboks team is once some of those players pull on the green and gold jersey, they take it to a different level. Once they're in that system, they all trying to play for a position in Rassie's team. And I think this weekend you're going to see a lot of desperation from some of those players that want to become full-time Springbok players, because there are opportunities up for grabs, but also they are playing against a Scotland team that just went to Argentina and, in my opinion, dominated them and looked like the much better team on the day, and potentially with Finn Russell back as well. So I think this Scotland team right now is in the best position possible to beat this Springbok team. And I thought, honestly, if it was the full strength Springbok team versus Scotland Springbok team, I thought it was going to be a close game anyways. But now it's a Springbok team with a lot less experienced players, but giving guys an opportunity. Reminds me a little bit of that Wales game a few years ago in Bloemfontein that the Springboks lost, versus a Scotland team with a lot of confidence that just needed one good away win from home to really get that confidence in themselves. So this game should be extremely close at Loftus Versfeld, but I still will stick with the Springboks for this one. I have to play it safe. I have to still stick with the Springboks. My heart's telling me that this could be a game that the Springboks are losing, and I'm a massive Springboks fan. I am a huge Springbok fan. This game, I have a bad feeling about this game as a Springbok fan. I really do. Not because I think we're going to play bad. Don't get me wrong. I think the Springbok team they selected is really fun. I think guys are going to be extremely good. Embres Papier, Evan Roos, all these guys. And of course, if things do click for them and the Scotland team does kind of fall back into that trap of being very poor away from home, then the Springboks could win this game by a try or two or three or even four if they really click on the day. But I think this Scotland team right now, after a very good win away from home, will be full of confidence, and maybe adding Finn Russell to that, even if he's not there, they'll still be extremely confident. So if you add Finn Russell to that, they'll be even more confident and ready to go. They've got a very good centre combination. Their backlines are looking strong. Their forward pack seems to be clicking. But I still will stick with the Springboks to win it by a very small margin. But this game this is a must-watch game this weekend. So if you are deciding between which games to watch this weekend, Australia versus France, 100%. South Africa versus Scotland, that's going to be another great game there. So I've got a bad gut feeling about this game this weekend. But on the other side, it could be an awesome game where the Springboks win and they also try out some of those youngsters as well. So this game should be very interesting, and that game looks like a really fun game to watch. So I can't wait for that one. Then, of course, the final game, Argentina versus Wales. A game I'm definitely very intrigued to watch. Not the strongest Argentina squad right now. A lot of guys missing, like a Marcus Kremer. There's other guys not there in the forward pack. Not their strongest team by any means. There's a few injuries, a few guys not available. They got beat by Scotland. And I think this Wales team is really beaming with confidence right now. They can honestly go there and get a result. I don't think they will. I think Argentina will bounce back. I think Argentina will win. But I think this is going to be a proper test match late at night for us here in the UK to watch this game. But I think that's going to be a proper test match. And Wales are getting better with every single game they play. So I'm excited to watch this game because I'm really intrigued with where Wales is going right now. Wales have always been the Springboks bogey team. I mean, 2019 quarterfinal. That was one of the most stressful days of my life. Other games against Wales, they always just seem to have this weird thing of being able to beat the Springboks or have a close game against the Springboks. Of course, not recently, but that's why I've kind of got a soft spot for Wales as well. So I really do hope Wales can have a really good game here, but I do honestly realistically see Argentina winning this game. But those are my predictions. New Zealand beating Italy. Australia just beating France. Sounds crazy saying it, but I do think Australia will beat France. Ireland to beat Japan in a very good game with a changed team for Ireland. England to narrowly beat Fiji in England. Obviously, Fiji home game. South Africa to scrape through against Scotland, but this game's going to go down to the 80th minute. And of course, I've got Argentina to beat Wales, but that game also could be a very close game, and I will not be surprised if Wales sneaks away with a win here. So let me know your predictions down below in the comments. Let me know if you agree with anything. Let me know if you disagree with anything. Thank you so much for all the support, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.